As you're watching this video, you're clearly someone who cares a great deal about internet privacy, and you've likely also heard a great deal about Tor. Or actually, you might not have. That's a pretty weird assumption to make. You might not know anything about Tor. That might actually be why you're watching this. In any circumstance, you've clearly made the association between VPNs and Tor and understand that what they do is at least comparable on some level, and it is. However, the differences are arguably greater than their similarities. Today, rather than taking a molecular level look at how each of the technologies function, we're instead going to compare and contrast how VPNs and Tor work and clarify which one you should be using by what it is that you want to achieve. Sound good? Let's stick around. For Top 10 VPN, my name is Callum. Let's get started. To first address the elephant in the room, yes, I obviously work for a website that specializes in VPN reviews and advice. However, my number one concern is digital rights and your online privacy. Any advice I dish out here is being done in the most objective and educational way possible. I don't want to mislead you, and I have nothing to sell to you. I just want to make sure that you arrive at the optimal solution for whatever problem it is that you're facing. Now, how about we begin with the slightly more complicated technical stuff? How does the onion router, better known as Tor, work? The Tor network is not operated or overseen by any one company in the traditional sense. It's 100% free, and the only way to access it is via a special web browser of the same name. When you open the Tor browser and enter a web address, your traffic is then routed across multiple servers, often referred to as nodes, within the Tor network. These nodes are all operated by volunteer individuals or organizations. The entry node is the point where your browsing request first enters the network and becomes encrypted. That request then passes through a middleman or middlemen known as relay nodes, which then feed it onto the exit node, which is where it becomes decrypted and connection is made to your final destination server, the website you wanted to visit. Functionally, it's really that simple. It's not so scary when it's spelled out like that. And if you're wondering, yes, that is quite similar to how a VPN operates. A VPN will usually be owned by a company that maintains all of the servers within its network. You choose one to connect to, whereupon all your traffic is encrypted, sent to that specific server, and then passed on from that server to its final destination. In a very, very broad sense, the overall effect of Tor and VPN is the same. Your web traffic is encrypted, so it can't be spied upon by anyone operating or monitoring your connection, and your IP address is hidden and spoofed, so that websites you visit can't tell who you really are or where you're connecting from. Now, in an ideal world, I would be able to end this part of the video right here, but there are, of course, an absolute ton of differences and caveats and exceptions to how Tor and VPNs operate. It's important that we understand some of the most straightforward principal ones. Please do not get mad at me in the comments. I know it can be a great deal more complicated than this, but we're trying not to get bogged down in that, and also I'll cry. So, what are the nuances between the two technologies? Let's begin with something that I think is very important, which is that you cannot choose your endpoint with Tor. A big selling point of VPNs is that you can choose what country you appear to be connecting from. Tor just spits you out from a random exit node that could be anywhere on Earth. I mean, technically you could modify Tor's config files to choose the endpoint country, but that is a bad idea as it could compromise your anonymity. Another big difference is a pretty obvious one when you think about it, but Tor is just a browser. That of course means that it only affects web traffic. Anything else you do on your device outside of the browser itself won't be encrypted. VPNs cover your entire system, not just web traffic, but all apps and programs and everything else will all travel via the VPN server. Tor is also exceedingly slow. If you've never used it before, then get ready. Bouncing all your traffic between all of those servers as well as encrypting it is no light task, and the result is that it takes a serious toll on speeds. VPNs affect your internet speeds too, but to nowhere near the same extent. You'd have to be using a very, very poor one and deliberately connecting to a server thousands and thousands of miles away to experience the same sort of slowdown as you get with Tor. Tor also famously gives you access to the dark web. That sounds scary. That's because it can be. The dark web is a selection of websites that are deliberately inaccessible by ordinary web browsers, which are only capable of accessing what we call the surface web. There are lots of websites hidden on the dark web, some good, some bad, but what they all have in common is that you can only access them by using the Tor browser. Here's the surface web website for the Tor project that you or I would normally use, and here's the dark web domain for that same site. Putting that into, say, Google Chrome or Apple Safari won't do anything. The final big point isn't so much a technical one as it is an operational one. A big criticism that often comes from privacy obsessives is that you're entrusting all of your data to a private corporation, which can seem counterintuitive if you're after true anonymity when you're using a VPN. And they are 100% correct. VPN services know your original IP address, handle all of your web traffic via their own server network, and can even know your personal details from when you signed up for an account. The Tor network requires no sign-up or payment details, has no means of logging your activity, and has no real owner. Its decentralized nature means that while a small team of people maintain it, individual servers are all independent of one another with different volunteers operating them. However, due to the way the two technologies work, your ISP can tell when you're using Tor, but it can't tell when you're using a VPN. And don't worry though, it can't actually see what you're doing on either of them. Now that we understand all that, we can work out what the two different services are actually useful for. Let's start with Tor, and one reason that we actually mentioned already, accessing the dark web. There's two important things that I feel should be clarified when discussing using the dark web. Number one is that there are plenty of legitimate sites on there, coupled with legitimate reasons to use it to visit them. And number two is that it is also genuinely dangerous and home to an absolute plethora of illegal stuff. It has a reputation that's both somehow fair and unfair at the same time. To state the obvious, do not do anything illegal on the dark web, please. It's shockingly easy to do so. I won't say exactly what it can entail, as I don't want to get battered by the YouTube algorithm, but you can use your imagination. However, you can also visit dark web mirrored versions of surface websites. News services, archives, email providers, operating system repositories. There's plenty of good stuff out there. And to reiterate, you cannot access any of those dark web.onion websites without using Tor. And why would you want to do that? That leads me on to my next use. Tor is supreme for anonymity and defeating censorship. It can often be our privilege to forget that there are people for whom online anonymity is not just something to strive for, but a life or death necessity. Journalists reporting under oppressive regimes, government or corporate whistleblowers, persecuted minorities living under the threat of corporal punishment, and citizens of internet-censored countries all desperately need a reliable, free, safe way to access the internet without blocks and without being identified. Tor is the best thing out there for it. It isn't perfect. There are suggestions that it has been compromised in the past, and you can also potentially draw attention to yourself by using it, but it is as close to complete anonymity as you can get online. It doesn't retain logs, it doesn't charge a subscription fee, and you don't have to place your trust in a for-profit corporation when using it. So if those are scenarios where you should be using Tor, then what are the scenarios where you should be using a VPN? In truth, just about every other one. Tor is pretty unique and a fairly niche utility. While I can certainly understand its allure, especially if you've never tried it out before, the odds of it actually being the optimal solution for you are slim. A VPN allows you to choose the location of the server you're connecting to, so it's best for unblocking websites that are geographically restricted, like streaming services. VPN connections are much faster too, so you can torrent files quickly and securely through them. Your whole device is protected when you're using a VPN, so every app and program travels via its connection, not just your browser traffic. You can also use VPNs on way more devices than you can Tor. VPNs were simply created with far more uses in mind. The trade-off is, as we covered a moment ago, that they won't get you into the dark web, and they aren't quite as anonymous as Tor. There's also a fairly significant degree of trust involved with VPNs. It's a point people make frequently to me when they ask me about VPNs, and on its face, it's a sound one. They ask, if I don't trust my ISP to handle my online data, why should I trust my VPN? And frankly, the answer is that you shouldn't. It's imperative you do your research before choosing one, because the majority of them are no better than your ISP whatsoever when it comes to handling your personal data. Most VPNs are shoddy, illegitimate enterprises designed to turn a profit by selling on your entire online profile, your browsing history, your purchasing habits, all of it. But a good VPN is almost exclusively reliant on its reputation. If a big-name VPN service is discovered to be untrustworthy or insecure, then its entire business is scuppered. If you still don't feel comfortable in trusting one of those companies, then more power to you. Tor may be the way to go. And not to mention the fact that all of those companies that are actually worth trusting will command a subscription fee for their services, unlike Tor. With that out of the way, there's still one more question to answer, and I bet it's one you've already thought of. What happens if you use both at once? What if you use a VPN while using the Tor browser? Honestly, you don't necessarily need to do it. The benefits are minimal, but let's run through it anyway just because. Tor over VPN is what you get if you connect to a VPN server before opening up the Tor browser, and is the most common way of combining the two. The main reason for doing this is that with the VPN sort of encapsulating the Tor browser, your ISP will have no idea that you're using Tor, whereas normally it would. The second benefit is that the Tor entry node won't see your true IP address. It'll only see your VPN IP address. And thirdly, it mitigates a big downside to VPNs, which is that your VPN provider won't be able to see anything that you do online so long as you're doing it through the Tor browser. However, your VPN provider will still know your true IP address and that you're using the Tor browser. Plus, your Tor exit node will still see your traffic. So the alternative to this is VPN Over Tor. Very few VPNs currently offer support for combining the two technologies together in this manner. The way it works is that your VPN channels all of your traffic over the Tor network, not just your browser traffic. You can also access .onion websites without using the Tor browser. It's a bit like supercharging your Tor connection, as you get the privacy of the Tor network combined with all the advanced features of your VPN. Plus, Tor exit nodes can no longer see your traffic. Perhaps supercharging was the wrong word to use there, actually, because this process does massively slow down your connection. Having that double layer of encryption is also serious overkill for most people too. Oh, and you likely won't even be able to do this on every server, only special select locations chosen by the VPN provider. NordVPN, Proton VPN, and Air VPN are three of the better VPNs to offer VPN over Tor, and the level of setup required to use it varies with each. So, which are you going to use? VPN or Tor? Sound off in the comments and let me know which and why. And if you still have more questions, then do take a look at our dedicated, full-length written guide if that isn't where you're already watching this video. Stay safe, don't do anything I wouldn't do, and I'll catch you in the next one.